We are continuing with the Eightfold Path, the Ennobling Eightfold Path, and we're going to dive into right intention, skillful intention, appropriate intention, and we're calling it discovering intention. So we intentionally want to look more closely at intention itself because in Buddhist teachings it's central. Intention is central. The Buddha uh, revised the idea of karma at his time, where it was talked about karma was action. He said it's intention. Intention actually gives our actions ethical weight. So it's not just what we do, but the intention behind it.
And wow, that's a powerful idea when you really take it in. But it can lead us to believe that we should really be able to know our intentions all the time, clearly, and then being able to deliberately shape them. And for a long time, I actually thought that was the task, to identify the right intention and correct myself accordingly, which you can imagine would lead to certain kinds of stress, and really not liking myself that much when I didn't pull off the right intention. Um, but
Right,
sometimes it works.
right.
But often it's just not possible because it, the idea of conditionality is absent from that idea. The idea that I alone could shape intentions is erroneous.
But we don't always know when it's erroneous, and it takes a long time
Yeah.
for that to wear away. So, really, the difference of approach here is, instead of trying to impose that right intention in whatever situation we're in, we're rather trying to become more aware of the intentions that are already there. What are the intentions that are already operating that moved us to take our actions? Because very often there's a lot of them, or more than one, let's say, maybe not a lot, but they're also subtle and they operate below our awareness. They show up more afterwards in the way we react. Sometimes we surprise ourselves, even the way we talk to ourselves in our inner voice or to others, or the way we're thinking.
And this is really, sort of what we're trying to do in this whole segment of the Eightfold Path, and maybe even in our teachings, in addition, other teachings in addition to that, which is we're really trying to show how we, in reflective meditation, get to the same,
Mm.
funny, I'm going to use the word, intention that's around the Eightfold Path, how we discover intention, how we find it again through what Linda was just saying, through reflection. You didn't say it directly, but it's very much
Mhm.
implied by what you said.
Right, right. And because of I would say, the strong focus of the reflective meditation practice on conditionality or dependent arising, we almost always go back to this, that um, we see that intention is not just something we can generate internally, it's shaped by conditions. So if we want certain intentions to flourish, might we need to support them with the conditions that we know help support those intentions? How would we put our focus or effort there? And again, this is like another spoke on the or path factor on the Eightfold Path, why they aren't just singular, because we're talking about intentions in light of effort and awareness.
Right. Right. It's so funny. I mean, you have to separate these out to talk about them,
Yeah,
or maybe you don't have to, but it certainly works more ease with more ease, but they're not separate, right? That's what you were saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So back to that thinking thing that is can be complicated in different meditation paths. But we say allow thinking in. Um, we're not saying you need to be all focused on what you're thinking, but not to exclude it, and because it's within thoughts that we often see intention. Perhaps we notice that we're thinking about something and it's driven by maybe worry or a desire to control or maybe a wish to be seen in a certain way. um, even though we don't act on them, excuse me, even though we might not be consciously setting them, again, below the level of awareness or consciousness, they are operational. And when we see them, we have more of a chance of shifting them a
Mm,
bit.
mm, mm. Yeah, I remember early on looking up some other translations of intention, and one way to talk about it, and I can't remember the translator, but was right thinking. That they actually said, how do you know your intentions without your thoughts? I mean, they're like this. So I would say that is another goal of our practice is to refine our thinking, be more aware of it. Um, Look at the
Right.
views in it.
Right, and really kind of in that order. I mean, not that we don't refine it first. We kind of become
Yeah.
more, excuse me, not in that order. We become more aware of it, and that leads to the sometimes the capacity and the desire to refine it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We came up with this, we took this example from somewhere, and I like it because it's a simple example of maybe an intention to meditate regularly. Um, and you find you're not able to do it, and you assume it's your willpower, and rather than just that assumption, you kind of can fill that out and be more curious about, well, what conditions would support you to meditate more, joining a group, setting a time, not setting a time, creating a structure, checking in with somebody. And there's so many ways to support that intention rather than just assuming, as Nelly referred to earlier, that you can't do it or there's something, wrong with your will isn't strong.
And how many times, Linda, have we heard from people that since we set up this daily online, which has been over 5 years ago, right? That really, so many people had that intention to meditate more
Yeah.
regularly or daily, and that this structure is what allowed that finally that
Right.
intention to happen. And that's a lot. That's a strong motivation to me to keep this going.
Right, right. And we came up with that as a group. We've, put it into practice. It seems like it's always here. You just show up you on Zoom and you get a chance to meditate that day. Uh, so, it's really yeah. Oh, I lost my train of thought.
Well,
Nelly,
I'll
you
pick it
come
up.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, but we're sticking with that meditation
yeah,
example. So maybe we come to meditation with the intention to relax or reduce stress. Um, I I think it was from that podcast we listened to with Ezra Klein and Michael Pollan, where Michael Pollan said the biggest lie about meditation is that it will make you calm or something like
yeah.
that. That's the big lie. So many of us know that that's not always the case because we've reflected on our meditation so many times and seen, yes, it happens sometimes, but that's not the main
Mhm.
always to be counted on. Um, but instead, perhaps we sit down and we start thinking about something difficult, and maybe we even feel more stress. But and then you might, I don't know if you might, but some people might conclude that meditation isn't working, but it's working in a
Mhm.
different way. It's
Yeah,
bringing into awareness that which needs our attention.
right. Right. It is somewhat mysterious too that you can come to meditation and not even know you have an intention until you meditate more. And then you can see, oh, I really wanted to be calm today, and I am not. So I'm much more aware of that intention. And also, some of us do certain things at the beginning of a sitting to try to focus ourselves, to make the experience go a certain way, sometimes a little nudge or a little something else. And in reflection, that you can become more aware of that. And when you talk about your meditation, you can become more aware of that. And that's what we feel is really interesting about practice is that you know more.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Linda. When we start questioning people, when they do, start their meditation in a particular way, more trying to make something happen, or following a particular direction. But when we question people about it, it's not because we think what they're doing is wrong, but there's an intention behind it, and we're trying to
Yeah. Yeah.
unearth that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we're ready to meditate, I think. I will be on bells today.